Welcome to Indian Tech Icon Spotlight, Silicon Valley chapter, where we celebrate bold ideas and the leaders behind them. I'm Sheetal Rahul Acharya, and today on the Spotlight we have our wonderful guest, Mala Ramakrishnan, who is an engineer, entrepreneur, and product visionary. From launching her first startup at 21 to leading multiple successful exits, Mala is currently the founder of Progressive Ventures and leading a non-profit organization. She is a true visionary and an innovator and also a change maker. Hi Mala, welcome to the show, and it's truly a pleasure to host you today.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. So Mala, I'm excited to know about your journey. You launched your first startup when you were just 21.
Yeah.
So what motivated you to take that, big leap, and what was the kind of confidence you had that time to take that leap?
Yeah, it's the company of people at Stanford University where I was a graduate student. I didn't have the confidence, honestly. I made two friends who believed in me and took me along. And I think I've been very lucky to have people around me who've always believed in me and supported me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about who you surround yourself with.
Oh, yeah, that's great to know. So, when you were so young at that time, you started like out of, it's like a new kind of thing, right? It's nurturing a baby kind of thing when you start your own venture. So what was the experience like during that time? What are the challenges you faced and what are the learnings?
So I was 21 years old. It was about 9 months in that I had just landed in the country. Maybe a year. I made a couple of new friends while I was a graduate student. Both of them are very entrepreneurial, amazing people. And they invited me to join them to start this company. And we said, let's write a business plan. And we won first place. And we got seed money from venture capitalists. And that really, completely changed my perspective because I come from a background where none of the women were allowed to work. None of them were allowed to go to college. So at that time, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I just don't have this background like these other two guys. And I used to tell them that, saying, you two have entrepreneurship backgrounds and I don't. And I didn't realize the value of the friendship at that time, right? But it really transformed me to think that I can be empowered to lead as well. I can start a company as well. And we went and rented office space in Mountain View. We got some refurbished hardware. And that's how the first company was born. I was like, coding everything myself, right? We were all young engineers. Very transformative. We did sell to 11 customers and the company exit by sale eventually. And I went on and worked as a software engineer and then product manager, product marketer, started my second company and then third company. And every time I realized that you need someone to believe in you and give you a chance, which is what has happened for me multiple times. And I want to be that person for others. And that's why I started the venture firm last year saying, well, if so many people believed in me, it's about time I did the same. Now I'm in my 40s. And if my mom, who couldn't even go to college or who was, struggled to get to college, got me into Stanford University and I had this opportunity to start 3 companies, what can I do for the next generation to come? So it's a very mission-driven organization. Progressive Ventures is incorporated as a regular venture firm, just like anyone sitting in Sandal Road. And we invest in seed stage B2B companies. We invest if there's at least one underrepresented founder on the team, ideally a woman. And 50% of our investments are women at this point. All of them have one underrepresented founder.
No, that's wonderful and incredible journey, I must say. Now, talking about women as entrepreneur, right? We were talking off camera. There are not many women who, take or who have that much confidence to start their own company or venture. So what do you think are the challenges commonly faced by women? And even at the top positions, if we see, you don't see many women.
Yeah, I think it's just that women have been systematically held behind in every culture, in every country across the globe in our history. If you go look at it, it's just, it's crazy. And the thing is, either you can claim victimization or you can say, well, now is the time for change and I have been empowered, right? And I feel the latter, that if you go into the victim mindset, you get really angry and then you cannot be functional. But you could go that route. And I find a lot of women going that route. And then that's like a negative spiral. And then there are others who are like, I'm just going to survive because I have a mortgage, I have children, I have a marriage I need to keep. And so they just land up working like these mid-level jobs. They never step up and lead because of the fear of losing what they have, right? And so I think it's more that now we need to say, this is our time. right? In the United States, especially sitting in California, there is nobody telling me that I cannot be an equal. I can open a bank account just like a man can. As late as the 90s, women could not open a bank account without a male co-signer.
That's true.
Right? In the United States, which is just completely bizarre if you think about it. I have voting rights. I'm a citizen of the United States. And I'm empowered in every way, equal to any man. Of course, there'll be biases. But instead of looking at the biases and feeling a victim, I choose to say that I have everything I need. And I'm going to be just as big as any of those big guys sitting on Sandal Road or anywhere else in my universe. And I think every woman is capable of that. So part of the reason why I'm doing it is because when a woman sees me do it, they'll be like, if she can do it, I can do it. Right? I'm just an ordinary person who came from India with $50,000 student loan and nothing in my pocket. And if I can do it, why not anybody else? So then that's part of my message to the world.
No, absolutely. And you're truly an inspiration to a lot of women out there who are looking to start their own, ventures. And you're going to inspire them for sure.
Yeah, I hope so. It's not just the people who need to start ventures. It is people wanting to step up at every level. Even if you're a leaf on a tree, you need to lead. You can't just say, I'm just going to take what I get and be safe. You have to say, I'm going to push myself as much as I can. And it's okay if you get kicked around a bit. But that's basically how you can get to higher levels than you possibly can ever imagine. And that needs to happen by the women, because we can't sit around saying, okay, we're being left behind, the men need to help us. We have to step up and say, I'll show you how you can help me, and I'm going to lead and you follow me. So I have a non-profit organization. It's called Founders Creative. The mission of the organization is to have 50% representation by women. In every room, every platform, every stage, every boardroom, every company going IPO, every founding team, because we're 50% of the population. We can't be less than 2% of investments in venture money, right? And I think 0.2% of GPs, general partners, are women. It's just like such a small percent of the population. And venture capital is where we need to make a change. Because if you look at the stats, I think 0.02% of companies born in the United States every year are venture-backed, which is such a small percent of companies. But that accounts for 20% of the GDP of the United States. So if you really want to pick an area that makes the most impact, that is in venture capital, right? And so if I can change that, even just a little bit, a microcosm in my lifetime, and that starts a movement so that over a period of time, just one woman needs to go IPO on Wall Street every year, which isn't happening today. That can make that shift, right? Over a period of time, my vision is that we're just 50% of everything. Then there won't be bias. We won't get interrupted. We won't be treated differently because we're the norm. And that's how it should be, right?
Absolutely.
So that's my vision for the world.
No, absolutely. And you're working on a great vision, Mala. And hopefully, in near future, we should definitely be there. And I think a lot of companies these days, Ivan, they are working on inclusivity, but still we are not yet there.
I mean, the current government has blown up DEI, which is just, completely against the values of every human being who's actually walking the planet, where they know that women have been held behind. And there has to be ways in which we can make it inclusive. And so I think it's a statement that we maybe should be making back, saying, well, tough luck, I'm going to stand up and lead anyway. And, this is our chance. This is our lifetime. We just have so many years left on the planet. And in those years, we have to step up and make a significant difference so that our children benefit from it. Right? And the people who come, and think about who are the people who, when they step out of the door, when you're asked to go and do a job outside the door, you think about, what about my child? We are the ones who think about, what about the children first? The women are the ones who think about, what about the children first?
That's true.
There are never any women shooters going and killing mass shootouts in any part of the country here. And what does it tell you? We are the ones with empathy and connection, thinking about the future generation. Climate tech will get solved. This is the solution for world peace, if you ask me. You want empathetic leaders who think about the next generation, and that's us women. And we are not in the rooms that matter. And that's the reason why the world is suffering today. So, that's the reason why I'm stepping up to do what I am.
So, Mala, we were talking about the support system for women. So now let's talk about the pillar of support. Who is the pillar of support for you? Let's talk a bit about your family, from where you get that strength.
Yeah, absolutely. my mother lives a mile away, and I have two sisters who live within a 3-mile radius of where I do.
Oh, wow.
My husband and I have been married for 22 years. And I just safeguard myself when it comes to the company of people. And they are my closest. I do have friends, I do have neighbors, but the closest people are my husband is my favorite person in the world. And then I have my sisters and my mother, who's always been there from the time I was born, right? I'm the youngest in the family. So I think I have a gift there for sure, that I have a very supportive family. And I have to rely less on friends as a result of that, which makes it much more powerful and empowering, that you don't have to compromise on relationships when you have the core group of people you were born with and you're married to who are so supportive.
Well, that's wonderful to know. And you have kids as well, right? And how do you, if you want to talk about your kids, and how do you manage your work and your family life?
So I have two boys. They're now 16 and 13, and they're very independent people. They're now almost adults. They're teenagers, and we've always raised them to be independent, and they've always seen me working. And I think my husband and I are both very independent people who believe in ourselves as well, as a result of which they emulate us. And that has worked very well. So they're very supportive of me as well. Like if they were here right now, they would be like, making sure that we're comfortable. When I travel, they usually like trying to carry my bags for me. And they're very sweet. Yeah. So I think the father is the role model. And I got, I definitely chose well. I can't say it was not all luck. We did pick each other.
Oh, wow.
And he's just super supportive. He can run the home without me. So when my boys see him cooking in the kitchen and caring for me and being kind, then they do the same things. And so that works well.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
So Mala, now let's talk a bit about the startups, right? Again, switching back to our startup conversation. Now, Bay Area is the hub for all the startups and VCs. Now, what is your experience when we talk about India? Now, there are a lot of unicorns coming out from India. So what's the contrast that you see, and what you see is still needs in India, which we see here around in Bay Area and which is lacking in our country?
Well, I can't claim to be an expert in India because I left 27 years ago, and I don't make a lot of frequent trips unless it's work related, because all my family is here. And when I left the country, it was a closed market economy where the government, the public sector held a very massive control on just about everything. And so the privatization has definitely changed the way things work there. And I truly believe Indians are hardworking, ethical, very intelligent, smart people who are able to thrive and be very entrepreneurial by nature. And so it's only, that's the only thing that can happen, that we'll end up building unicorns out of India. When you have that dynamic where there's privatization and there are people who are so smart and hardworking, it's only bound to happen. The unique thing about the Bay Area is it's a very unique system that's been built around Stanford University. That Sandal Road has now been created. I think 10% of all venture firms are on Sandal Road, right? And so it's a very unique ecosystem that even where I live in now in Palo Alto, I call it my circle of influence. Just a 3-mile radius of my house, if I can affect, I can have an impact on the global economy because of the people who live here and the wealth that's built here, right? Think of me, when I came to Stanford in 98, Sergey Brin and Larry Page, the founders of Google, were in Stanford with me. I took a course with them. And then the prof that taught me operating systems went and started VMware, right? And that's as common. What happened with me is so common in the Bay Area. You'll meet a lot of people that this happened to. And so the network that we have is phenomenal. So creating that kind of unique ecosystem is really hard anywhere in the world, I'd say. And so that's another reason why I need to step up, because I have this advantage that I need to give back. And the thing about India is that India is very regulated at this point, and it's insanely hard to understand how to work with the country sitting here in California and Silicon Valley, unless you have somebody in India who's related to you like a brother or someone you can trust. And so many of us are afraid to be able to, because there's money after all that we're trying to manage. And so I don't invest in India at this point, outside like sending donations. We don't invest through our venture firm. So that dynamic could change.
Yeah, so Mala, now that we are also talking about your homeland, India, so we would love to know, like, which part of India you come from and where you were born and brought up, and how were your growing up days like?
Yeah, well, I was born in Hyderabad in Andhra Pradesh, and then I'm a Tamilian, so I was raised in Madras and Coimbatore. I went to high school in Coimbatore and then college in E-Road, a government engineering college, and I'm the third of three daughters. What was it like? It was a very free and kind and happy time when we didn't have devices, right? And I think we were very poor at the time. We didn't know we were poor, which is a nice place to be. We were still middle class by Indian standards, but I think compared to the global economy, most of India was insanely poor. So we didn't have a lot of toys to play with, and books came by hard. I read every book in the local library. I remember I'd read every single book in the local library by the time I left high school. My parents were very encouraging and supportive. They were like preparing us for a future they couldn't see clearly, just like we are. But that's just like it's a whole different level when you are in a country that has just become independent in the last couple of decades, really, right? And they were just preparing for us to be not. So there were rules in the house that you needed to get a PhD, that you needed to get a 4-year degree, a professional degree, and of course you could be an engineer or a doctor. And you had to leave the country. You had to leave the house when you're 18, 17 years old and go to college. And we knew that we had to leave the country after 4 years and we had to figure out how to do it. My mother would explicitly say, don't get married, don't have children. Make sure that you are very wealthy and you work very hard. And those are good values. Now, of course, all three of our sisters are married and we all have children and we're very happy. But we're also, living in better wealth than we did. And my older sister has a PhD, and she said a PhD is a waste of time and don't do it. And I regret it, honestly, now that it's like, if that's the one thing I regret from my past, it's like, I wish I'd listened to Dad and just studied a little bit longer.
You can still do it.
I could still do it, yeah. In fact, I'm studying right now. I study at Berkeley. Yeah, I'm doing a second master's in data science and machine learning. I feel like, you need to go and update your skills if you plan to stay in computer science. I did get a CS degree from Stanford, but that was in 2000, 25 years ago, and the industry has changed so much. So I can't deceive myself to think that I actually know it all.
So Mala, like with your experience, right, if you have to give one piece of advice to aspiring women or aspiring women entrepreneurs who are like looking to start their own venture, so what that advice would be from you?
Yeah, I think the challenge is women, for one thing, women don't step up enough to start companies. And when they do, they don't pick venture scale ideas. And yet they expect to get funded. Now, I'll tell you, I think the way you should look at the world is, let's assume that there is no bias and that people cannot see who you are, what your gender is. And they can only see what idea you have and what you want to contribute in the world. And when you look at it from that perspective, is this idea venture scale without thinking about who I am? You need to be able to justify that you'll get to $100 million in revenues, right? Which means your valuation needs to get there, right? This is basically a unicorn will have $100 million in revenues. And most venture scale ideas will get there in 5 to 7 years. So the challenge I find is women land up picking very small ideas and we land up I think probably we start more businesses than men, but we start like yoga workshops and we start, childcare centers and services oriented businesses, which is fine. It's a good start. And I've actually tried some of those. I run a school, I run preschools and all that, but that's not how you can make the biggest impact in the world, right? If you want to build multi-generational wealth, then you need to pick ideas that are so massive that it can change the way people work and operate. And that's Google for you. That's Facebook. That's VMware. All these technology companies. And you don't have to be a technologist even to do that. But the way to do it is to start thinking about who's the market. How big is the market, right? And how much money can I make per unit in this market? And does that add up to a number where it can be $5 billion worth? If it's at least the TAM is $5 billion worth, then at least multiple of you can exist in that market, which will be necessary. When you go IPO on Wall Street, you will not be the only company doing what you are. You'll have competitors who are as big as you or as large or much larger than you. So the market size has to be massive because each of you is making $200 million in revenues at least when you go IPO. right? So when you go IPO, typically the metrics will be that you're making 200 million in revenues and you're growing 50% year on year. So just imagine how massive that organization has to be. And I think we'll end up thinking too small. Right. And so we don't. But if you think small, at least try and think of an acquisition. And if you can't do any of that, just do it anyway. Just step up and lead and you learn the ropes, right?
Yeah, no, I think the wonderful takeaway is, creating the huge impact.
Make a big impact. Yeah. And do the math behind that impact and calculate backwards and see, can you actually achieve that goal, right? In 5 years, if you want to hit $50 million in revenues, then today you need to be at $1 million in revenues. And in 12 to 18 months, you need to be at 10 million in revenues because it takes time to grow. Right. So now to get to 1 million today, what do you need to do? And then work backwards from there and make sure the market is massive enough. I think the world is there to support you if you decide to become big and make a big impact. Yeah.
Yeah, no. Wonderful takeaways. And thanks for sharing that insight with us, Mala.
Thank you.
It's been lovely talking to you, Mala. And we are just nearing end of our wonderful conversation. So at the end, we have a segment called as the Rapid Fire Round.
Okay.
So I'll be asking you some interesting questions.
Okay.
So are you ready?
Yeah.
Stanford Library or Palo Alto Coffee Shop? Where do you get best ideas?
Palo Alto Coffee Shop.
That's where I think most of the ideas are coming from.
Well, that's where the people network, right? The venture capitalists and the founders. Stanford Library is much more, it's quieter and it's deeper thinking. But ideas come in collaboration.
I hope the coffee shops are not asking for the equity from the startups.
Not yet. Don't tell them. That's a good one.
I have just triggered an idea. Okay. The other one, if startup life were a movie, would yours be a drama, comedy, or a thriller one?
Oh, goodness. Depends on which startup.
Okay.
The first one was like a romantic tragedy.
I'll ask you in detail. That would be like off camera.
Well, the second one was I can do it all myself. So it's kind of like, I was like the solopreneur who thought I could do it all and I couldn't do it all. Right? Like He-Man or the She-Woman.
I wanted to want to tag it as the comedy kind of.
It's comedy, yeah.
Okay.
Well, it was comedy for sure.
It was learning, like.
It was learning, yeah. Okay. Yeah, very informative. The third one was, I think I had a great partnership with my co-founder, my third one. And I think I learned and grew a lot more than the other experiences, which is interesting considering the older I am, you expect to grow less. But in fact, I think I grew a whole lot more. And I also realized that the fact that men want to support me and I'm not alone in the world, right? And there are male investors who invested in me, male counterparts who've co-founded companies with me, who've given me customers, right? All kinds of things that you need in order to thrive as a businesswoman. And so those partnerships I learned to build in my third company.
Okay, that's wonderful. Now coming to the next question, very simple one. What's your comfort food?
Oh, I eat rasam and rice.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
I remember, eating best of the South Indian food when I was in Chennai.
Yeah,
so I still recall, I still have those memories. But yeah, absolutely. If you had to live in another country for a year, where would you go?
Oh, I want to live in Portugal with my husband.
Any specific reason?
I'm an immigrant, so money is one of the reasons, right? If I rent my house out in Palo Alto, we can cover our livelihood. We don't have to work. But I want to do yoga on the beach and just play with my dog and, read a book and not do much.
Okay, that's
also, I think there's an opportunity for us to continue our venture investments. And I think Europe is a good place to go because people want to get European citizenship. And so they may want to invest through my fund to do that. And so I can support the local economies that way while continuing to nurture women.
That's a good idea.
So it's a long-term kind of...
It's a good idea. And I think it's always go to a place which is like, not yet there. Like, if you compare it, especially with the technology hub here in Bay Area.
Yeah, but I don't know if it's practical to live anywhere else after living there,
That's true as well. Okay. The last question. If your life had a tagline, what would it be?
Oh, the empowered.
Okay, you want to make it a bigger one, like one-liner?
Yeah, she came and she conquered and she's empowered
Oh,
and
wonderful.
she's glorious and glorified and grateful.
There you
So,
go.
yeah.
Thank you so much, Mala. You played really well, and thank you so much for
Thank
all the
you.
wonderful insights, sharing your experiences. And I'm sure, like a lot of women out there, will get inspired after listening to and watching to this podcast.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so
I
much.
really enjoyed it.
Thank you, and lovely meeting you.
Nice meeting you. Thank you.